Welcome to BioIT World's Trends from the Trenches podcast, your insider's look at the science, technology, and executive trends driving the life sciences. I'm Allison Proffitt, editor of BioIT World. This episode is hosted by Stan Gloss, founder of BioTeam, a life sciences IT consulting company at the intersection of science, data, and technology. Joining Stan today is Aaron Friedman, Principal Product Manager at Amazon Web Services. A couple of weeks ago, Aaron gave Stan a sneak peek at a new product being launched today at Amazon's reInvent event. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon, Aaron. I am so excited to talk about the new launch of Amazon Omics with you and to be one of the first to be able to discuss this topic with you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Stan. And really appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure to get the opportunity to chat. I know we've known each other for some time, and we're really excited over here. We're really excited for the value that we think Amazon Omics is going to provide customers, as well as partners, right? Working with BioTeam and others, for example. It's something, I just can't emphasize how excited we are to help our customers and make it easier and easier to advance precision medicine, scientific discovery, and everything that goes along with it.
Yeah, we've had the luxury of being part of your beta tester group and had a chance to really kind of look at Amazon Omics, which makes this so much more exciting because the feedback I'm getting from my team is that this is going to be significant in the marketplace. So maybe we should talk a little bit about it. So maybe take us back to what was the world like prior to this launch, and why did AWS decide to fix this problem in the marketplace? What is it that you saw, and why did you do this?
Yeah, I think the simple answer, is, and this is, of course, across AWS, is we listen to our customers. And so one of the things that we've heard time and time again is, we know that genomics, and it's not just genomics, it's all this other biological data, whether it's, transcriptomics or the gut microbiome or the proteome or pick your favorite if you so will, but that genomics and this other biological data really has the power and the potential to transform how we treat disease. But fundamentally, as we've seen, across the industry, the scale at which it takes to manage, petabytes and petabytes of data. How do we make this data findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable with all the data lineage built in? How do we just make it easier and easier for scientists and researchers and clinical genomics organizations to mine their data and deliver the right treatment to the right individual? These are all things that we've heard from customers time and again. Mm-hmm. And to be clear, there are a lot of phenomenal solutions out there in the industry, but what we've heard from customers is there's a lot of undifferentiated heavy lifting associated with getting to their outcomes. And that's really what we're focused on, We know that, for example, tens of millions of whole human genomes will be sequenced and stored in the next 5 years. So how do we store that data efficiently for our customers, make it easy to share, make it accessible and secure? We know that, from the idea of interoperability and data sharing and reproducibility, it's really important that customers have the ability to run for example, their workflow language of choice, and being able to have this portability, share it among collaborators, and have it just run seamlessly. We know that, omics data is unique, but it's not enough. And so how do we make it easier for our customers to, organize, normalize, transform their data into formats to make it accessible for discovery, that make it easier to query, easier to analyze, easier to combine with other types of data modalities, such as clinical data with, say, clinical records or imaging.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we've just been talking to customers for a long time, I mean, these are conversations I've had at Amazon or AWS for over 6 years since I've been here. I think we just realized that it was the right thing for our customers, and so we invested in sort of removing a lot of that undifferentiated heavy lifting for them, and ideally, right, getting them more and more focused towards scientific discovery and enabling precision medicine.
So, Aaron, quick question for you. We've worked together as partners on a project called Omics.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that tie into the new Amazon Omics platform?
Yeah, so I think one of the trends, or even I'm not going to say, well, I am going to say buzzword, but it's not just a buzzword in the industry, is this idea of multi-omics and multimodal analyses. And so I think what this really gets to is the fact that you need to bring together multiple data modalities to best understand, for example, patient populations. And so when we look at what this means we need to have purpose-built data stores for variant data. We need to have purpose-built data stores for known information about variants areas in the genome. We need to have purpose-built data stores for clinical records as well. And so when we think about multi-omics and multimodal, it's all that, it's governance, it's bringing all this together. And I think where our new AWS service really plays and hopefully makes this easier for customers is on that multi-omics side of things. So how do we bring all that data together? How do we process it? How do we make it easier to build insights? And of course, right across AWS, we have additional investments, for example, in Amazon Health Lake to do similar things. But all that, again, needs this sort of fair data commons, if you will. And that's where I think a lot of the work, for example, that us and Buy Team have done really comes to play. Is really how do we then make all that data accessible on that layer, or basically built on top of those foundational primitives that we are now putting out there for our customers.
So let's get into talking a little bit more about what the clients and customers will see when they're working with Amazon Omics. So kind of help me understand how the clients will use this.
Well, I think there's a lot of ways, which is good for customers to use the service. And I'd be lying if I said I knew of every way. I think one of the things we're really excited for is to see how customers use this over the next coming months and years. I think foundationally, if you look at the areas that we're investing in based on customer feedback, I think there are sort of three main areas, if you will, with a lot of nuance bundled underneath it. And so the first one is sort of this, how do we store and share this data at a low cost and share the data efficiently? And that is, I think, just it's foundational in the sense of how it really, I think the question we're trying to ask here is how do we remove the barriers to entry for scaling these types of analysis, and that's cost, it's data management, that's fair data access and everything like that. And so I think part of our service will really be used for that, and it's not just us working with partners and everything like that as well. The second piece there, I think, and I've already sort of talked about this, is how do we make it easier to bridge across all of these data silos? In my past life, for example, at the startup I was at, we had to do a lot of these things. We were taking a bunch of different data modalities and having to bring it together, reconciling even simple things like how does my sample ID map to my subject or patient? And so we want to tackle those types of things and just make it easier and easier. And also, how do we reconcile the fact that our industry has numerous different data formats with different coordinate systems. You look, right, everyone can have sort of their own sort of unique reference genome. A lot of them today are based on, right, GRCH38 or HD38. But even just reconciling that, bringing a common coordinate system together and really just facilitating discovery is something that I think customers will use the service for, in conjunction with the multi-omics and multimodal stuff that you mentioned before. And then, right, if we have sort of how do we analyze the data from a raw standpoint? How do we help our customers transform that data and facilitate downstream analysis, often in the industry, right, called tertiary analysis? There's the fundamental fact that you actually have to compute on this data. And I remember back when I was finishing up my doctorate, talking to one of my mentors, and he was always talking about how the need to, for example, compute on the genome, and that's always resonated with me. And so it's not just secondary analysis, right, going from the raw sequence data to some type of insight like variant calling or gene expression profiles, but it's everything else. And so whether it's using the service for, right, those canonical types of analyses, whether it's for single cell spatial genomics, whether it's for looking at the composition in a gut microbiome, whether it's for protein structure, function, and prediction. I think there's just so much that we're excited to see what our customers do with it, and really look forward to continuing to build and innovate on behalf of our customers.
So what has AWS done to remove what you described previously as heavy lifting?
Mm-hmm.
So let's make believe I'm a new startup company and I'm going to do, you said, spatial genomics.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Walk me through how I would kind of get going and how this removes the heavy lifting, because I think everybody wants more heavy lifting done for them than doing it themselves.
Yeah. So, if you take an example customer like that, right, you are generating a lot of data. And so today you would be storing that data, for example, on Amazon S3. S3 is just a phenomenal object storage that has been really transformational to not just the healthcare life sciences industry, but the whole technology industry at large. But you would store the data in S3. You would need to, if you want to make the data findable and accessible, you would build, right, your own metadata and search layer. You would need to figure out the optimal storage and retrieval patterns for that data and tier it effectively. You could, in a lot of cases, right, choose to use something like S3 intelligent tiering. All that gets, right, optimized with our capabilities, our storage capabilities within Amazon Omics. The other piece that you would need to do is you need to analyze that data. And so if we think about, computing on, spatial genomics, you have a set of pipelines that you're traditionally trying to run. If you're, say, coding that up in Nextflow or Whittle, the traditional path, right? If you're doing complete do-it-yourself DIY, is you would have to then manage the engine. You'd have to manage the underlying file system. You would have to manage retries and any errors. You'd have to do, right, a lot of debugging, and all the stuff, if you're really doing it at scale, becomes a challenge in a production system. And I spent a lot of my time here at AWS as a solutions architect, so working directly with customers on these types of problems. And I think what's really nice here is we've abstracted away all of that, right? So you don't have to worry about, for example, I need to run Whittle. Do I need to pick Cromwell or Mini Whittle? No, you focus on the language, right? And say, hey, I have this Whittle script. I need to register it within the service, and then I need to run it and run it and run it. And so what that means, I think, for the customer is there's a lot less work that's needed to develop, maintain, and operate a production scale system. And that is really, I think, valuable because it frees up a lot of resources to do what is differentiating to the organization, which is, oh, cool, I've generated a lot of, for example, spatial genomics data or single cell data. And how do I like, how do I actually analyze it? What are the scientific or precision medicine type questions that I want to answer? And that's where I think, organizations like a new startup want to focus, right? If you look at, new hires in a startup organization, a lot of the first hires are bioinformaticians and data scientists. It's relatively rare to see, say, in the first 10 to 20 hires, a vast majority of them being software engineers who would be needed to manage these types of systems at scale.
So those are the Davids of the world. What about the Goliaths, the large legacy, say, big pharmaceutical company that has some challenges? How does Amazon Omics help the Goliaths of the world?
Yeah, and I hope it's okay, but I would challenge a little bit the framing of legacy, just because we've seen at AWS so much innovation coming from these large organizations as well, right? Whether it's Moderna with development of their COVID-19 vaccines, whether it's we have numerous, for example, case studies working with some of the largest pharma in the world and driving and accelerating their innovation, and really really happy to be part of that. I think, though, where we can help, again, is if you look at those large organizations, one of the things, and we talk about this at AWS, is sort of this innovation flywheel. And so, again, right, similar to startups in the aspect of, and obviously these are much further along organizations, a lot of funding, many are public. But again, it's do you want your the question I would ask is, and when I talk to customers, it resonates, is really, is managing all this stuff what you really want to do? Is that the long-term value to the business, or is it, right, small molecule discovery? Is it, how do I use genomics to properly stratify my patient populations into clinical trials? How do I combine this data efficiently, say, for real-world evidence and post-market observational monitoring? There's so much value that I hope we can bring to these customers by, again, removing and really just freeing up their bioinformaticians, their data scientists, and everyone with that domain expertise, and just really allowing them to operate at the top of their license, right? They're just brilliant people across every organization, and our goal is to hopefully free them up to do what they do best, which is really advance, I'd say, medicine, improve human health. That's our mission. That's what we hope we can provide these customers.
Well, it's certainly our mission as well. That's why we're so well aligned. Anyway, maybe it would be interesting to hear if there are any stories that you could share with us from your beta test group. I know that many of them are under non-disclosure and you can't actually refer any names, but maybe you could share some experiences of actual beta testers and how they've used it and what benefits they've already seen from the platform.
Yeah. So I think one of the areas that's really important to us, and this is sort of just going to be a broader observation, and one of the things we really strive towards, and I think it gets back to the undifferentiated heavy lifting piece, is ease of use. And that's something we're really focused on. And so to your point, I can't say specific names or anything of that sort, but what we found is, as customers have been going, for example, through the beta program, and right, it's a beta program, we continue to collect customer feedback and ship new capabilities based on that. But ease of use is so important to us, both in the short term and long term. And so, if I had to pick a metric, is how hard is it for customers to get started? One of the really great things we've seen, for example, is with regards to our variant data stores. And so if you look at like what customers had to do today, and this is related to direct customer feedback, is if they wanted to ETL data into a format, right, you have to manage, and a lot of this goes, say, into Apache Parquet today. You would have to manage your own ETL pipeline. You would need to deploy, right? Let's say you're using Hail or Glow or a custom parser. You would have to deploy all that by yourself. You'd have to operate and manage it. We've been able to really take that complex process and just down to a simple API call. And so the feedback we've heard from customers there is, oh, I can just bring my VCFs and it's call a single API and it's ready for me to actually analyze. And so that's just one example, but I think ease of use is something. Obviously, we're not perfect today, and we will continue to strive to always make that better. But that's something we've been really pleased to see. But we've seen, right, customers look at, right, the traditional genomics and variant calling. We've seen RNA-seq. We've seen a bunch of different, types of pipelines and analyses, and really excited as I've said before to sort of see hopefully the value, right, that we can provide customers doing a wide variety of these types of multi-omic analysis on AWS.
So, Aaron, where do you see this is just the beginning part of the Omics platform? Mm-hmm. Where does the group see the vision of the future, and where will this grow to, and how? I know this is just the beginning, but where will this grow?
Yeah, I think so. I think the first thing here, right, to even just fundamentally, right, think about is, right, we're not just focused on genomics. And so obviously a lot of what we've built and launched is helping our customers with some of those foundational, traditional genomics analyses. But, we really just want to make it easier and easier across, all biological data. And so when we look at that and listen to customers, there's a wide set of things that we hear, and we're collecting feedback. I don't want to pontificate too much. Obviously, we just launched, and I think we're going to be in a really exciting time where customers are going to be doing things that we didn't even expect. And I really look forward to collecting that feedback and using that to make sure we're delivering the utmost value. But I think the real thing here is, it's biological data. It's everything from, like cellular and subcellular pathways on down. Customers have told us that they're really keen to leverage our news service for. But then, roadmap and like everything at AWS, it's determined by customer feedback. And so I have ideas a little bit, based on the customer conversations I've had, but I look forward to having a lot more and continuing to hopefully innovate and make it easier and easier for our customers.
So how would our listening audience find information about Amazon Omics and their trials? So where can they go and what can they do?
Yeah, so everything is right. This is a full-fledged, right, AWS service. So everything is it's in your AWS management console. It's available via the AWS command line interface and software development kits. But if you want to learn more, you can go to aws.amazon.com /Omics, and that will get you to our product page. All information there around pricing and everything like that is there, as well as getting started guides. We'll continue to add workshops and everything like that to hopefully make it really easy to get started.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for sharing this really current information with us, and we're looking forward to seeing how Amazon Omics is really going to solve that heavy lifting problem that we see every day with our clients.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dan. And as always, I can't emphasize enough how much it's a pleasure to connect with you here. I think we've known each other for 6 years now. I think just looking back, and I remember in some of the early conversations, your name coming up, whether it's with, Bioteam or just more broadly. And I've been honored, obviously, to get to know you and continue to get to know you, and look forward to, hoping to advance the industry together.
Aaron, thank you so much for your time. It was a true pleasure. And thank you for the opportunity to bring this information out as quickly as possible. And we wish you the best of luck with the launch.
Thank you so much, Stan. Pleasure being here.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to BioIT World's Trends from the Trenches podcast.